Commander Veltar's four eyes focused on the navigation console as their sleek, stealth ship Silent Reaper glided through the darkness of space. The vessel's black hull absorbed light like a hungry void, making it invisible to any primitive detection systems. Behind him, his hand-picked team of elite Crithian scouts worked silently at their stations. Each one a veteran of dozens of reconnaissance missions across the galaxy, the Yellow Star. They approached had been catalogued centuries ago, but the third planet orbiting it had only recently caught the Empire's attention. Radio signals had been detected emanating from its surface, weak, scattered transmissions that suggested a species just beginning to understand basic electromagnetic communication. "Distance to target," Veltar asked, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had overseen the conquest of 17 worlds. 43 million kilometers in closing, Commander, replied Navigator Kixith, her elongated fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "We should reach optimal scanning distance within 6 standard hours." Veltar nodded, his mind already calculating the phases of their mission. The Crithian Empire had perfected the art of galactic expansion over millennia. First came the scouts, gathering intelligence on potential worlds. Then the assessment teams would analyze the data, determining the most efficient conquest strategy. Finally, invasion fleets would arrive to claim another world for the Empire. Scout leader Hickson suddenly straightened at his communication station, his antenna-like sensory organs twitching with excitement. "Sir, we're detecting some primitive electromagnetic signals from the planet's surface. The inhabitants appear to use basic radio communications, very crude compared to our quantum entanglement networks." "What kind of signals?" Veltar moved closer, studying the readouts that appeared on Hickson's screen. Waves of electromagnetic energy pulsed across the display, creating patterns that spoke of a civilization barely crawling out of its technological infancy. "Music, Commander, and what appears to be news broadcasts. The signals are bouncing off their planet's ionosphere. They don't even know how to direct their communications properly." S mandibles clicked in amusement. "They're broadcasting everything into space for anyone to hear." Veltar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Another simple conquest for the Empire. His experience told him everything he needed to know about this world called Earth. The intelligence briefings had been accurate. A few scattered tribes, perhaps 1 million inhabitants at most, still using primitive chemical rockets and basic electronics. The standard procedure was straightforward and had never failed. Scout, assess, conquer. Within a few cycles, Earth would be another jewel in the Crithian crown, its resources feeding the Empire's endless expansion. "Begin surface scans," Veltar ordered, settling into his command chair. The chair molded itself to his form, connecting him directly to the ship's sensor array through bioneural interfaces. "Focus on population centers. I want a full tactical assessment within 2 cycles." Scout Nixara powered up the ship's advanced sensor suite. Technology so sophisticated it could count individual life forms from orbit. "Scanning now, Commander. Initial sweeps show a planet with significant water coverage and breathable atmosphere. Perfect for colonization." The Silent Reaper's sensors were marvels of Crithian engineering. They could penetrate planetary atmospheres, map underground installations, analyze the genetic makeup of entire species from hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. Against a primitive world like Earth, they would reveal every secret, every weakness, every strategic target. "Sir, we're picking up thermal signatures from the daylight side of the planet," reported scanner operator Tixel. "Initial readings suggest some kind of settlements, but the patterns are ... unusual." Veltar frowned. "Unusual how?" "The heat signatures are more organized than we typically see in primitive civilizations. They form geometric patterns across large areas." Tixel's voice carried a note of confusion. "I'm going to need a closer look to understand what we're seeing." The ship's engines hummed quietly as they adjusted course, bringing them into optimal scanning position. Through the viewports, Earth appeared as a blue-white marble against the starfield, looking deceptively peaceful and welcoming. "Beginning." "Detailed surface analysis," Nixara announced. "Trading atmospheric layers, compensating for electromagnetic interference, enhancing resolution." The main display flickered to life, showing Earth's surface in stunning detail. What they saw in those first moments would haunt every member of the crew. For the rest of their lives, the scanner readings began climbing rapidly. Population indicators that should have shown thousands instead displayed millions. Thermal signatures that should have revealed small tribal settlements showed massive urban sprawls stretching beyond the horizon. Industrial complexes larger than entire Crythian cities dotted the landscape like mechanical forests. "By the void," whispered Hickson, his voice barely audible above the humming of the ship's systems. "Commander, you need to see this." Delta S. Confidence began to crack as the numbers continued climbing on every screen around him. This wasn't the primitive backwater world their intelligence had described. This was something else entirely, something that would change everything the Crythian Empire thought they knew about conquest. Scout. Nyxara's three-fingered hands trembled. As she stared at the cascading data streaming across her console, the numbers made no sense. Population readings that should have peaked at maybe 50,000 were climbing past 50 million and showing no signs of stopping. "Commander, I'm getting anomalous population figures," she called out, her voice cracking with uncertainty. "The scanners must be malfunctioning. These readings are impossible." Beltar abandoned his command chair and strode across the bridge, his heavy footsteps echoing in the suddenly tense atmosphere. The other crew members had stopped their routine tasks, sensing something was terribly wrong. His four eyes narrowed as he leaned over Nyxara's shoulder, studying the holographic display that painted Earth's surface in pulsing red dots, each dot representing a concentration of life forms. The numbers climbing on the screen defied every piece of logic the Crythian Empire had built their conquest strategies upon. Where their intelligence reports suggested they would find thousands of primitive humans huddled around campfires, the sensors revealed millions living in organized settlements. Where they expected maybe a million scattered across the entire planet, they were finding billions. 7.8 billion, and still counting, Nyxara whispered. Her voice barely audible above the humming of the ship's systems. "Commander, this can't be right. No single planet supports this many intelligent life forms." Veltar's mandibles clicked nervously, a habit he'd developed during his early days as a junior scout. In all his decades of service, cataloging worlds across 3 galactic sectors, he had never encountered anything like this. The largest inhabited world in Crythian records housed maybe 200 million beings, and that was considered extraordinarily dense. "Run a full diagnostic on all sensor arrays," he commanded, his voice tight with barely controlled concern. "Check every circuit, every calibration. I want triple verification on these readings." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as technicians scrambled to comply. Scanner operator Tixel pulled up diagnostic protocols, his webbed fingers flying. Across touch-sensitive panels, Navigator Kixith cross-referenced the readings with their stellar cartography database, searching for any explanation that might make sense of the impossible numbers. "First diagnostic complete, Commander," reported Chief Technician Vexrin K, emerging from the sensor bay with grease stains on his uniform, all systems operating within normal parameters. "Recalibrating quantum scanners now." Minutes stretched into an hour as the crew ran test after test. They checked the ship's position, verified their distance from Earth, and even ran scans on nearby asteroids to ensure their equipment was functioning properly. Everything checked out perfectly. "Second diagnostic complete," Vexrin announced. "All readings confirmed. Sensors are operating at peak efficiency." His voice was hollow as she delivered the third confirmation. "Final diagnostic complete. Commander, the readings are accurate. Planet Earth supports over 7 billion intelligent life forms." The silence that followed was deafening. Every member of the crew stared at the main display, watching as detailed scans revealed the true scope of human civilization. The planet teemed with massive cities that stretched beyond the horizon like metallic cancers across the landscape. Towering structures of metal and glass reached toward the sky, some over a kilometer high, housing millions of humans in vertical communities. "By the void," whispered Hickson, his usually steady voice filled with awe and terror. "Look at these industrial complexes. God. The scale is ... impossible." The scanners revealed manufacturing centers that dwarfed anything in Crythian space. Automated factories churned out goods 24 hours a day, fed by transportation networks that moved resources across continents. Ships larger than their own stealth vessel crossed Earth's oceans, carrying cargo between population centers. Aircraft filled the skies in organized patterns, following invisible highways through the atmosphere. Commander Nixera called out, her voice barely steady. "You need to see these urban concentrations. This one they call Tokyo houses over 37 million humans in a single metropolitan area. And there are dozens of similar concentrations across the planet." Veltar studied the holographic representation of Tokyo, watching as the scanners mapped layer upon layer of human habitation. Underground tunnels honeycombed the earth, connecting vast subway systems that moved millions of people daily. Above ground, highways stacked on top of each other carried endless streams of vehicles. The city pulsed with energy consumption that rivaled small star systems. "How is this possible?" muttered Navigator Kixith.
Our
Xenobiology texts state that intelligent species typically plateau at sustainable population levels. No world should support this many complex life forms. The evidence surrounded them on every screen. New York, London, Mumbai, Snow Palo city after city revealed populations that exceeded the total inhabitants of most Crithian worlds. Each metropolis was a marvel of engineering and organization that spoke of a species that had not just survived, but thrived in numbers that defied galactic norms. Veltar felt his confidence. Built over decades of successful reconnaissance missions, crumbling like sand. This wasn't the primitive world their intelligence had described. This was something else entirely, a civilization that had somehow managed to sustain billions of individuals on a single planet. While maintaining complex technology and social structures, the Silent Reaper hung in space, its crew stunned into silence as they contemplated the implications of their discovery. Earth wasn't just inhabited, it was a teeming hive of humanity that challenged everything the Crithian Empire thought they knew about civilized worlds. As the hours passed aboard the Silent Reaper, the crew's initial shock began transforming into something far more disturbing. Veltar had ordered a complete military assessment of Earth, expecting to catalog a few primitive weapons and maybe some organized hunting parties. What they discovered instead sent ice-cold fear coursing through their alien veins. "Sir Nixara," reported, her voice trembling as she struggled to maintain professional composure. "I'm detecting multiple military organizations across the planet. It's not one unified force, but dozens of separate armies. Each one appears to be... substantial." Veltar moved closer to her station, his four eyes focusing intently on the tactical display. What he saw there challenged everything he understood about planetary civilization. The scanner painted Earth's surface with different colored overlays, each representing distinct military forces spread across the globe like a patchwork of potential destruction. "Show me the largest concentrations first," he ordered. Dreading what the analysis might reveal, the holographic display zoomed in on North America, highlighting massive military installations scattered across the continent. Pentagon-shaped structures housed command centers, while vast complexes in places called Nevada and Colorado revealed underground facilities that stretched 4 kilometers beneath the surface. The United States alone maintains over 1 million active military personnel, Ixara continued, her voice growing smaller with each revelation. "But Commander, that's just their active forces. Their reserves triple that number. We're looking at over 3 million trained soldiers in a single nation." Hickson abandoned his communication station and joined them at the tactical display. "That can't be right. Show me their equipment inventories." The scanner obliged, revealing arsenals that defied comprehension. Thousands of armored vehicles, called tanks, sat in storage facilities, each one bristling with weapons capable of destroying city blocks. Aircraft hangars housed fighter jets that could streak across continents in hours, armed with missiles that could level mountains. "By the ancestors," Hicksan breathed, "look at their naval forces." The display shifted to Earth's oceans, revealing floating cities of steel and weaponry. Aircraft carriers longer than their own mothership cruised the seas, each one carrying enough firepower to conquer a small moon. Nuclear submarines prowled beneath the waves like mechanical leviathans. invisible to most detection methods, and armed with weapons of unimaginable destruction. "These numbers can't be accurate," Hickson muttered, but his protest sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Single nations maintaining armies larger than our entire expeditionary force? It's impossible." But the scans didn't lie, and they painted an increasingly terrifying picture as the assessment continued. The display shifted to Asia, revealing China's People's Liberation Army with over 2 million active soldiers. Their manufacturing capabilities showed production lines churning out military equipment at rates that staggered the alien observers. "Russia maintains nearly 1 million active troops," Nixara continued, her voice now barely a whisper. "India has over 1.4 million. Even smaller nations like North Korea field armies, numbering in the hundreds of thousands." Veltar studied each revelation with growing horror. In Krithian space, a typical conquest involved facing maybe 50,000 defenders across an entire world. Here, individual human cities maintained police forces larger than most alien armies. "Commander, scanner operator," Tixel called from across the bridge, "you need to see these weapon stockpiles. Humans have developed something they call nuclear weapons." The main display filled with data that made Veltar's blood freeze in his veins. Thousands of nuclear warheads sat in silos in submarine bays, each one capable of destroying areas larger than most Krithian cities. The combined nuclear arsenal possessed enough destructive power to render entire continents uninhabitable for centuries. "They've turned their own planet into a doomsday weapon," whispered Navigator Kixith. "These nuclear devices could glass entire continents. Why would any species build weapons capable of destroying their own world?" The answer came as they delved deeper into human military doctrine. These weren't just defensive weapons, they were strategic deterrents designed to prevent global warfare. The humans had created a balance of terror so complete that no single nation dared attack another with full force. Sir Nixara's voice cracked as she delivered the most disturbing news yet. "I'm detecting active military exercises across multiple continents. They're practicing warfare constantly, even during peacetime." The scanners revealed training grounds where millions of soldiers practiced combat scenarios. Mock battles involving hundreds of thousands of troops simulated invasions. In defensive operations, the humans weren't just maintaining large armies, they were constantly preparing them for war. "Look at this," Hickson said, highlighting a massive exercise in Eastern Europe. Over 100,000 soldiers, thousands of vehicles coordinated. Air and ground operations? This is larger than most actual wars in our records. Veltar realized with growing dread that humanity didn't just possess large military forces, they were a species that had perfected the art of warfare through constant practice and preparation. Every nation maintained, not just armies, but entire military-industrial complexes dedicated to producing ever more sophisticated weapons. Commander Nixara whispered, her voice filled with terror at the implications. "If these humans ever unified their military forces, if they ever stopped fighting each other and turned their attention outward." Velta didn't need her to finish the thought. The math was simple and terrifying. If Earth's separate military forces ever combined into a single unified command, they would field the largest army in galactic history. Over 200 million trained soldiers, backed by weapons that could crack planets and industrial capacity that dwarfed entire star systems. The Silent Reaper hung silently in space as its crew contemplated a truth that would shake the foundations of the Krithian Empire. They had discovered not a primitive world ripe for conquest, but a slumbering military giant that could destroy them all. The deeper the asterisk. Silent Reaper's asterisk crew probed into humanity's secrets, the more horrifying the picture became. What started as a routine military assessment had transformed into a nightmare that would haunt every member of the scouting team for the rest of their lives. Commander Chief Technician Vexerin called from the data analysis station. "I've managed to access their historical databases.
How?
The information storage systems are primitive, but extensive. What I'm finding is... disturbing." Veltar approached the station where holographic timelines stretched across the display, each one marking periods of human conflict. The sheer number of red markers indicating warfare made the timeline look like it was bleeding. Show me there. Conflict history, Veltar ordered, though every instinct told him he didn't want to see what came next. The display exploded with data spanning thousands of years. Wars, battles, conquests, and genocides painted humanity's past in shades of violence that staggered the alien observers. Unlike most civilized species that fought occasional territorial porto, disputes humans had been in a state of almost continuous warfare since their recorded history began. They've fought wars involving tens of millions of casualties, Hickson reported, his voice hollow with disbelief, and they kept fighting. Never stopped. Look at this conflict they call World War I. Over 17 million deaths, and they called it the war to end all wars. The irony wasn't lost on the scouts. Within 2 decades, humans had launched an even more devastating conflict. World War II? Nixara read from the database, her voice trembling. Over 70 million deaths. Commander, the single conflict involved over 100 million military personnel across multiple continents. The scale is beyond anything in our galactic records. Veltar studied the tactical maps showing the scope of human warfare. Entire continents became battlefields. Oceans turned into hunting grounds for submarine warfare. The humans had fought in deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands, and urban environments with equal ferocity. But here's what's truly terrifying. Vexrin continued highlighting specific data points. They didn't just fight these wars, they innovated during them. Every conflict pushed their technology forward. They developed better weapons, better tactics, better ways to kill each other. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans had progressed from fighting with bronze swords to splitting atoms in just a few millennia. Each generation of warfare had produced deadlier weapons and more efficient killing methods. Look at their weapons development timeline, scanner operator, Tixel said. Overlaying technical specifications onto the historical data, they went from gunpowder to nuclear weapons in less than 600 years. Most species take millennia. To achieve such technological leaps, the display showed humanity's relentless march toward greater destructive power. Muskets gave way to machine guns. Biplanes evolved into supersonic jets. Simple explosives became thermonuclear devices capable of vaporizing cities. Sir, I'm detecting active military exercises happening right now, Nixara announced, switching. 2 real-time surveillance feeds. They're still training, still preparing for conflict. Even in what they call peacetime, they maintain combat readiness. The scanners revealed training grounds across every continent where millions of soldiers practiced warfare. Mock battles involving hundreds of thousands of troops simulated invasions, urban combat, and defensive operations. The humans weren't just maintaining their military forces, they were constantly improving them. Commander, watch this. Hickson highlighted a massive exercise in the Pacific Ocean. Over 50,000 soldiers, hundreds of aircraft, dozens of warships, all practicing an amphibious invasion. They're preparing for wars that don't even exist yet. The revelation hit Veltar like a plasma bolt to the chest. These humans didn't just fight when necessary. They lived in a constant state of military preparedness. Their entire civilization was built around the assumption that conflict was inevitable. Access their entertainment databases, Veltar ordered, a terrible suspicion. Forming in his mind what they found confirmed his worst fears. Human entertainment was filled with stories of warfare, conflict, and military heroism. Movies, books, games, all celebrating combat and glorifying warriors. Children grew up playing with toy soldiers and war games. They don't just accept warfare, Nixara whispered, scrolling through database after database of military-themed entertainment. They celebrate it. They've turned killing into an art form. The cultural analysis revealed a species that had elevated warfare to a central pillar of their civilization. Military leaders were remembered as heroes. Battles were commemorated with monuments. Soldiers were honored above all other professions. Commander Vexrin said, his voice barely audible, I've been analyzing their response patterns to external threats. Every time they've encountered a new enemy, they've adapted and overcome. They don't surrender, don't negotiate from weakness. They fight until they win, or until they're all dead. The historical record supported this conclusion. When faced with seemingly impossible odds, humans had repeatedly chosen to fight rather than submit. They had developed weapons to counter every threat, tactics to overcome every challenge. The most terrifying realization came when Veltar combined all the data they had gathered. Humanity ever discovered they weren't alone in the universe and perceived aliens as a threat, they wouldn't respond with diplomacy or surrender. They would do what they had always done throughout their violent history. They would fight. But this time, it wouldn't be fighting each other. 7 billion humans, backed by armies numbering in the hundreds of millions, armed with weapons that could shatter worlds, would unite against a common enemy. The prospect of facing a unified humanity in combat was beyond terrifying. It was a death sentence for any species foolish enough to threaten them. The Crithian Empire, with all its technological superiority and galactic experience, had never faced anything like this. It had built their expansion on conquering, divided, peaceful civilizations. Earth represented something entirely different, a world of warriors who had spent millennia preparing for the ultimate war. As the Silent Reaper continued its silent orbit, crew realized they weren't just observing another potential conquest. They were witnessing the most dangerous military force in the galaxy, one that humanity itself didn't even realize it possessed. The Silent Reaper engaged its quantum drives and fled. Earth's solar system like a ship escaping the gravity well of a black hole. Behind them, the blue marble of Earth hung peacefully in space, its 7 billion inhabitants. Completely unaware that they had just won the most important war in galactic history without firing a single shot, Commander Veltar sat in his quarters. During the long journey home, staring at the data crystals that contained enough information to reshape the entire galaxy's understanding of warfare and civilization. His hands trembled as he reviewed the reports one final time, knowing that what he was about to tell the High Command would shatter centuries of Crithian military doctrine. 3 weeks later, the Silent Reaper docked at Krithia Prime's orbital command station. The massive structure rotated slowly against the backdrop of their homeworld, its bioluminescent corridors pulsing with the rhythm of a living organism. Veltar made his way through the familiar passages, past the trophies and monuments celebrating the Empire's countless conquests. The High Command Chamber was a cathedral of power, its vaulted ceilings decorated with the banners of conquered worlds. 12 of the Empire's most senior military leaders sat in a circle, their various alien forms representing the diversity of species that served under the Crithian banner. At the center, Admiral Kethra's massive form dominated the space. His tentacles curled in patient attention. Commander Veltar, Admiral Kethra's voice, resonated through bioacoustic amplifiers embedded in the walls. Your preliminary reports have caused considerable concern among the High Command. Please present your full assessment of the target world designated as Earth. Veltar activated his personal holoprojector, and the chamber filled with three-dimensional images of Earth's surface. Cities sprawled across continents, industrial complexes stretched beyond horizons, and military installations dotted the landscape like stars in the night sky. Honored commanders, he began, his voice steady, despite the magnitude of his revelations. I must report that Earth is not the primitive world our intelligence suggested. The humans maintain a combined military force exceeding 200 million. Active personnel with reserves that could triple that number. Their nuclear arsenal alone possesses enough destructive power to eliminate all life on a dozen worlds. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Chittering, roaring, and electronic protests filled the air as the assembled commanders struggled to process this information. General Vothek's mechanical arm sparked with agitation, while Admiral Nexera's crystalline form pulsed with rapid color changes indicating extreme distress. Impossible. Admiral? Kethra's tentacles writhed in agitation, creating waves of bioluminescent fury across his massive body. You're suggesting that a single species, on a single world, could field an army larger than our entire civilization? Not could, sir. They currently do. Veltar's response cut through the chaos like a laser blade. And these humans have one defining characteristic. that makes them more dangerous than any species we've encountered in 3,000 years of galactic expansion. They never stop fighting. War is their natural state. The holographic display shifted, showing Earth's military installations in stunning detail. Massive underground bunkers housed enough weapons to arm entire planets. Naval fleets patrolled oceans with vessels the size of small cities. Air forces numbering in tens of thousands of aircraft maintained constant readiness. Observe their training protocols, Veltar continued, highlighting ongoing military exercises across Earth's surface. Even during peacetime, they maintain combat readiness through constant preparation. Millions of soldiers practice warfare scenarios daily. They've turned military preparation into a planetary obsession. Admiral Zixith, her insectoid features twitching with nervous energy, leaned forward. Surely their primitive technology makes them vulnerable to our superior weapons? Veltar's expression darkened. Their technology may be primitive by our standards, but their industrial capacity is beyond comprehension. They can manufacture weapons and equipment at rates that would strain our entire empire. Or importantly, they possess something we've never encountered, weapons designed to destroy their own planet. The hologram displayed humanity's nuclear arsenals, showing missile silos, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and strategic bombers capable of delivering world-ending destruction anywhere on the globe. These nuclear weapons represent a level of strategic thinking that defies conventional military doctrine, Veltar explained. They've created a balance of terror so complete that no single nation can attack another without facing total annihilation. But if an external threat appeared, he didn't need to finish the thought. Every commander in the chamber understood the implications. Humanity's separate military forces, held in check by mutual assured destruction, would unite against any alien invasion with the fury of 7 billion beings fighting for their survival. If we attack Earth, we won't face scattered tribes defending primitive settlements. Veltar continued, his voice growing more grave with each word. We'll face a unified humanity with the largest military force in galactic history, fighting on their home territory with nothing to lose. They've spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare, and their entire culture celebrates military conflict. The silence that followed stretched for long moments, broken only by the soft humming of the chamber's life support systems. The assembled commanders absorbed the reality of what they were hearing, that their plans for galactic expansion had just encountered an insurmountable obstacle. Finally, Admiral Kethra spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of command decisions that would affect billions of lives. Recommendations, Commander? Veltar straightened, delivering the words that would change the course of galactic history. Immediate quarantine of human space. Post-warning beacons at all jump points leading to their solar system. Classify all information about Earth as the highest level of state secret, and pray to whatever gods we worship that humanity never develops faster than light travel. The vote was unanimous. 12 of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy agreed that Earth represented a threat too dangerous to engage. Orders went out immediately to establish an exclusion zone around the Sol system, the automated beacons warning all vessels to stay away. Within hours, the Crithian Empire's vast intelligence network began scrubbing all references to Earth from public databases. The planet that should have been their next conquest became their most carefully guarded secret. In the classified archives deep beneath Crithia Prime, Earth received a designation that had never before been used in the Empire's long history of expansion, extinction-level threat, do not engage under any circumstances. As the years passed, humanity continued its daily existence, completely unaware that their reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous warriors had spread through the stars. Children played in parks while overhead alien ships gave their world a wide berth. Scientists searched the skies for signs of extraterrestrial life, never knowing that the universe had already found them and decided it was safer to leave them alone. The Crithian Empire, humbled by the sheer scale of human military might, quietly retreated into the darkness of space, carrying with them the knowledge that some worlds were too dangerous to conquer. Earth remained free, not because it was hidden or protected, but because 7 billion humans had unknowingly become the galaxy's most feared military force. The end.